You are listening to Mining Stock Education, where you'll learn from the top leaders in the natural resource sector and uncover quality mining investment opportunities.
What Christian really did this year for us, he really elevated the potential for porphyry and that concept and he's creating incredible conceptual targets for porphyry. Majors are really active with us. There's, secondary visits with some of them and they're all trying to get onto this porphyry thing. And this is very, very reminiscent to when I was running Caden of the corporate interest, if I was to measure it.
Thanks for tuning in to Mining Stock Education. I'm your host, Bill Powers. In today's show, we're getting an update from our sponsor, Tier 1 Silver. Joining me is Ivan Bebek, the chairman, Peter Dembicki, president and CEO, as well as Christian Rios, the senior vice president of exploration. Peter, let's start with you. You put out a press release with your Hurricane Silver project. Now, this one's been somewhat on the back burner the last 18 months as you focus on Curibaya. But with this press release, you lifted up the prospectivity. Could you begin by reviewing with my audience, why did you acquire this project and what historically has been done thus far on it?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Thanks for having us back. So Hurricane Silver was something that our technical team had their eyes on for some time while Curibaya was being launched, while we commenced our first round of drilling last summer around this time or last fall. And, when we acquired it, put it in the portfolio, it came with historical workings, exploration work that had been done by a private group within Peru that were formerly of Newmont, so it matched a lot of our Newmont pedigree that we had within our own team. And really, by looking at the work that they had done, it had shown that it had expedited all the exploration work. It would have saved us probably 2 years if we acquired it on what we would have wanted to do with it, because they used all the same techniques. So we wouldn't have to start fresh. So when we got it, we have the silver was, again, the focus at Magdalena. But as the year progressed and earlier this year, we got access to this other area, Nanahuayco, San Cipriano, on the northern area of Hurricane. This is a big district, 30,000 hectares, so over 13 different kind of targets. So when this area opened up for us on a socially that allowed us to get in there and explore, it came with some historical drill results that were, mind-boggling, right? Like the copper equiv was over 5%. But what was really intriguing to everybody is the presence of nickel. So this is, as Christian said, the only really project that he knows of in Peru that's copper nickel. And every time we speak to the majors about it or people that are active in Peru, they just you can see their brains just turning. They don't understand, like, copper nickel in Peru. This is something you usually find in Brazil or in Russia, and these are huge projects. They can span for kilometers in size. So to really open our eyes, we sent our team up there more recently for our second phase of exploration up there. And these channel samples are again, evidence of what they came back with. I think, over 40 meters of 3% copper and the base metal aspect to it is just incredible. So the grades are robust there. And as Ivan always says, grade is king. So let's find out the source here and let's see the next step at Hurricane, what we're going to do.
Christian, this is a polymetallic deposit, as Peter has mentioned. It's copper, nickel, platinum, palladium. Can you talk us through the channel samples that you just released and what are the next steps for the exploration program?
Yeah, sure, Bill. Yeah. Here we did in 4 areas that is called Magdalena, San Cipriano, Ñañohuayco, and also Pampayoc. We did more than 100 channel samples. So we sampled all the areas. And what's very interesting that in Ñañohuayco we got this 40. In Ñañohuayco we got this 11 meters with 2% copper equivalent, which is very good grade. In San Cipriano we got it in this big gosan, 50 meters by 150 meters. We got this 48 meters close to 4% copper equivalent. So that is very high grade in these areas. So we tested these gosans. And also, we extended the areas of the gosan. For example, in San Cipriano, we extended 150 meters the gosan area. So we need to test those, and then we need to do some geophysics because these seals, these dikes, 60% of the area is covered. So we need to find those with geophysics, with tight lines, closer lines. Also, in the case of Ñañohuayco, the area of the gosan was 90 meters by 90 meters, but we found 1.2 kilometers away to the northwest more gosans with high grade. mineralization with copper, nickel, silver, and all the PGE elements. So this area is open for exploration, has a huge potential. And now the plan is, first is more mapping sampling, tighter geophysics, closer lines, IP, EM, maybe we need to determine, but will be better to do it surface geophysics. And also we need to prepare, the targets areas for the environmental data. We need to see the environmental polygons there to present in the future the data. In the case of Magdalena, which are epithermal structures, high-grade silver, but also with lead, zinc, and also copper. Also we determine close to 4 kilometers of the veins in total. So that's very important. We have 150 meters also with underground workings. So that's the vertical extension that we saw at the moment, with 4 kilometers also extension lateral. That's also a very important potential in there. In the case of Pampayoc, also we're finding structures with nickel, copper, and also silver. But remember that this is a district, the only district that I will see that exists in Peru with nickel, copper, and the PGE elements, plus silver mineralization. We have 13 targets, and only we done work in only 4 targets.
And can you work this project all year round?
Here in Hurricane, because it's 4,000 meters, the average elevation, we can work from April to November, and then it's the rainy season. So we can work, I will say, only until November in the year.
Okay, so your flagship Curibaya, which has been the focus, as I mentioned earlier, the last 18 months, you put out a press release about the CSAMT geophysical survey, and you needed this to determine how to better target the copper porphyry. Talk us through this and why this is significant, please.
Yeah, it's very important because we finished the field work, 40 kilometers. Now we're waiting for the final results, 3D inversion, and also some final maps that is going to come in a week, 10 days. What is important is that we're finding conductivity anomalies, resistivity anomalies, and that's very important because we are doing also the relogging. And in the relogging, we found 2 intrusives with porphyritic texture, and that is matching with the relogging with the CSAMT. So we saw that we need to drill a little bit in the central part. Last year, we drilled more focus. We've been more focused in the veins, lateral from this, in the borders of these anomalies, but now we need to drill in the central parts of these CSAMT anomalies. So we're getting anomalies in CSAMT. That's very positive, with the relogging showing to us the existence of those of 2 intrusives, some quartz sulfide veinlets, also molybdenite veinlets. That's very important to have all these characteristics for a better targeting in the porphyry.
What more needs to be done before you finalize the targets?
Well, now we're waiting for the final results of CSAMT. We're waiting for the final geochemistry grid sampling that we have done in the area where we can find, skarn mineralization in the area that is in the upper part of these CSAMT anomalies. We're waiting for that in 30 days. And also, after that, finishing the relogging, we are going to be prepared to test this possible porphyry source.
Peter, are you getting any interest from corporates, majors? I know we've talked about how there's been interest in the silver aspect of Curibaya, but now you're talking copper porphyry, which could be huge. The majors like these. Any interest here?
Yeah, it's really interesting because obviously our sole focus when we first launched Tier 1 was Curibaya. Our flagship was the silver, the high-grade silver that we're chasing after. And with the emergence of the porphyry at Curibaya, kind of split that story into 2 and had equal amount of interest in the silver and the copper porphyry target that we're trying to hunt down. And then Hurricane comes along, and here we go. Silver targets, and then the space metal target coming to life. So really, we're getting interest on both on an equal amount from corporates and majors. We have signed CAs with some of the biggest out there who it seems to be split. People love the silver, they love the porphyry potential, but Hurricane has now shown this extreme grades that of copper and nickel and platinum, palladium, and some gold up there as well. So it's really split, and that's a good problem to have when you have multiple assets with multiple parties interested in it. So we love it. Obviously we'd want Hurricane to just open the doors and let us get in there and get going to see what we got there. But going through the process, as Kristen mentioned, and taking it step by step to really figure out, what the next target is there.
Ivan, I've been told that an asset is only as good as the people in control of it are. So can you talk us through your executive philosophy of leading an exploration company through a tougher market such as we're in right now?
Sure, Bill. That comes with a lot of optimism and perseverance, and that is probably the most important ingredient. And those of you who've obviously listened to Peter and Christian the whole year, these guys are super excited about what they're doing, and no one sees behind the scenes of these companies on how challenging it is internally to keep your head up when everything you do doesn't get rewarded or goes against you, and shareholders are extremely frustrated. The word patience comes into play too, because we're seeing these targets and our confidence is more than double what it was when we first went out there. And, the one blessing we've got with both our projects is grade. And when I first entered this business, I had a mining mentor, Dr. Roman Shkalenka, who found 6 major mines or 7 major mines around the world. And I learned everything about geology with him for about 3 years, 2 hours a day, sitting down with him. And he taught me three key ingredients. Number one being grade. As Peter mentioned, grade is king. Number 2 is the address. Are you near anything of consequence? And when you look at Curibaya, Serra Verde is number 5 in the world, porphyry or copper producer. You look at Tocopala, Quellaveco, 100-year mine lives. Address is mind-blowing. So, of course, there's going to be some serious interest here. And lastly, the age of mineralization is paramount as well. It's not the be-all, the end-all, but we dated a lot of our silver stuff earlier in the project, and the events of the creation of Curibaya's mineralization or alteration, some of it was matching exactly to the mines next door. So the odds are in our favor. I will say that you step on a project, and if you sample veins thin or thick, but let's go with thin veins, and we've seen, a meter to a couple of meters of kilo or better in over 70 veins in a 20 square kilometer area. Where's the source of this silver coming from? Is there a porphyry underneath it? How rich could this be? These are anomalies, and we've talked a lot about how unique this is as a project. And for me, grade is a curse and it's a blessing at the same time, because it can distract you. And what Christian really did this year for us, he really elevated the potential for porphyry and that concept, and he's creating incredible conceptual targets for porphyry. Majors are really, really active with us. There's, secondary visits with some of them, and they're all starting to get onto this porphyry thing. And this is very, very reminiscent to when I was running Caden of the corporate interest, if I was to measure it. And it's not drilling yet and hitting yet, but it could drill. And for us as explorers, it's about what if we hit. Could it be a 2 million ounce equivalent gold deposit or a 25, 30 million ounce gold equivalent deposit? And Curibaya has that huge swing. And now we're seeing Hurricane. It's a lot more than a backup asset with the grades that you're seeing, the things that Christian explained here, and the majors are circling that as well. So I think the ingredients of the projects in this company are the key ingredient for Peter, Christian, myself, the rest of the board, to keep going and truck through this difficult market and fight thick and thin. I'm super impressed with how they've done this, where they've come to. It's hard to contain our enthusiasm. Seems over the top when the markets are falling apart, but the project is really, really on Curibaya advanced properly towards that real shot. Independent parties are taking notice. And look, it's real simple. These are very, very high risk, but very, very high reward type of projects. So I'm accumulating more shares now because of how cheap we are. And you'll see it on my inside filings. And, I'm taking advantage of lower prices, but I'm aware that we're going to go out there, we're going to swing. And if it's there, I'm going to be a hero in my portfolio. It's going to do extremely well. If it's not there, Hurricane follows Curibaya about 6 months later or so after we drill Curibaya would be the reasonable logic, or a year out. But the targets are going to be just as exciting from what I can see now to drill, or even more equal than Curibaya. So there's a lot of depth in this company. And I think for the most part, it's perseverance and optimism. You have to believe in what it could be. As far as investors go, I understand how tough it's been. I understand how it's gone. And right before we got on this call, I asked you guys, you remember $32 silver when you would say silver and the stock would go up, or there'd be huge liquidity and the stock was performing extremely well. Well, we've been under $20 silver for most of the year, and you have to respect that. But you also have to remember when silver comes back to life, and there's a really good call on silver, a lot of longs in it, shorts have covered. I think that there could be a tremendous return just off the silver aspect of our project. And then copper, because everyone knows we're chasing copper with our group. You're looking at a big surplus of copper right now, $3.50, a pound or so for copper. But in 2025, we're looking at 26 million tons of demand and 19 million tons of production of copper worldwide. So a big deficit's coming. And so a lot of people have been fixated on the Fed and the rates, and that's really interfering with the markets. And we want clarity. We want the midterm elections to get through. Is this the bargain of a century? Does it get a bit cheaper? I feel like all the heirs out of all the juniors, and I'm not just buying tier one, I'm buying quite a few companies at these cheap prices because I think the turn's big. I think there's looming production cliffs in all metals, and no one's talking about the lack of discovery. No one's talking about the production cliffs, because those are a problem for bigger companies when they start showing declining production and they can't surpass the year before's production. So I think we're in for an incredible bull market. I think we are close to the turn. We might be at the start of it. The only thing I couldn't quantify is how long the turn's going to take before we turn up. But I'm hoping for a very robust, post-election first quarter of next year. And I think we're close to some of the end finish lines on rate moves and, economies that can push only so far before things really get ugly or really get good in the case for metals. And I most certainly feel metals are the next wave of one of the waves that's going to really drive people back into speculative gains. And that's what we're waiting for. And that's what we're looking forward to.
Peter, as we conclude, talk us through the Treasury and what should investors look for next, please.
So with our Treasury, we're in a fantastic spot, Bill, where, we're not up against it. We have enough in our Treasury to last us through Q1 of next year. And so we're going to learn a lot more in the next 45 days on our last results coming in from both of our projects, how we're going to hone in our targets on our potential porphyry target at Curibaya, plus the precious metals, the silver targets that we really want to go after and drill at Curibaya as well. So the next month and a half is really crucial. We understand where the markets are at, what they're doing, how volatile they are. But when it turns on, how fast it can happen and how fast we can hit the trigger as well. So we're ready to go. We're ready to turn it on. We're ready to commence, but we're watching because we got to be careful in these markets as well.
Okay. The company's website is tier1silver.com, ticker symbol TSLV in Toronto and TSLVF in the States. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the show today and providing this update.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.